Warning, this video and all other videos on this channel are for entertainment purposes only. The content of this video and all other videos on this channel are the opinions of the creator only and do not constitute legal, trading, investment, or financial advice of any kind. Investing carries a high level of risk and the majority of retail clients lose money. Do not invest any capital unless you understand the risks and you are prepared to lose it all. Alright, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel and I'm running seriously late today. I have had a bit of a morning, went to the midwife's with the wife, and I also managed to just scrape the carbon fibre bumper thing on one of my cars, which is pretty disappointing. But anyway, we're here and we're going to look at some cycles. So I've got some good news, bad news, okay? The good news is, I think I know what's going on with Bitcoin finally. It's been a while, but I think I'm finally there. I think I finally have the read. The bad news is we got to chop around for about a month, okay? So I'm going to show you some charts. I'm going to show you some cycles as always. If you're not subscribed, then go ahead and subscribe because this channel is so good. Even the haters tune in every day to watch it. Now, without further ado, okay, we have been operating under the assumption. In fact, let's cast our minds back slightly more, okay? This cycle low here, we called in real time, okay, ahead of time. We said there's going to be a cycle low here, and we said that because we were getting late in the weekly cycle, it would be a high risk and prone to failure cycle. Of course, the market confirmed that, and we nailed this low in real time as well. Now, unfortunately, this cycle low in here just so happened to be one of the few cycle lows that resolves to failure. And so for a while, we were kind of spitballing on this channel and saying, well, the weekly cycle low is bottoming, but it's not truly confirmed yet, right? On the weekly time frame, it just doesn't look like a weekly swing low should look. It doesn't look like the start and the turn of a new weekly cycle. And we were kind of suggesting and spitballing in here that we might have to do one of those fake out failed cycles, consolidation type deals, and then we could go, right? And if you're unfamiliar with this, I'll show you a couple of examples. We won't do the full fractalization that we normally do, but we'll just point at this and say, this is kind of what we thought we would do, perhaps. And there's also another one here, right? This one right here at the bear market low. So that was kind of the expectation, okay? However, structurally, this no longer meets the criteria for that, since we've not only had the fake out failed cycle here, but we then undercut it on another wick, okay, which if you go back and look at the other consolidation cycles, none of those did that. So this to me is where the good news, bad news starts, okay? I believe we are actually doing still a consolidation cycle that harms everyone. I'm going to explain this in a moment. I think we're doing this, okay? This is what I think we're doing, this consolidation cycle right here. So if I grab this and drag it across, this right here is what I believe we're doing, something akin to this, which means we've still got to waste a bit more time. We still haven't quite found the low, right? And herein lies the good news, bad news. The good news is, I'm pretty sure this is what's going on and we got a clear invalidation, okay? The good news is, I maintain that we only have to chop around slightly more, right, until early May, and then we are going to find a tradable swing, and that is going to resolve to a big push. The bad news is, this is going to be really frustrating and toxic for a while, and we've got to continue to chop around for around a month. So let's first of all deal with the invalidation for this, okay? If we are, invalidation for this would be a spill to a significant new lower low. Now, I'm half expecting to see this low, this wick right here, undercut ever so slightly, okay? I'm half expecting to see that, but invalidation for this is this starts to really spill to the downside. Obviously, validation for this is that we just continue to chop and grind around here and then we moon. So I'm pretty confident this is what we're doing, and again, there's a clear invalidation. But now I want to talk about why I believe not only is this in play, but it is max pain for everyone. Okay, first of all, it is max pain for the long traders like myself that have timed this cycle low to perfection and still had to pay a stop, right? Our most recent trade was stopped out, as everybody knows by now. But this also harms people that are doing damage control, right? We saw Bob Lucas take a third of his portfolio off to perform some damage control. Now, he would be right, absolutely right, because the risk of this is quite significant, right? That absolutely could happen. Just because I don't think it will doesn't mean I won't be wrong about that, right? We could easily see a spill, a significant new lower low below here, right? There's lots of logical places back here that we might want to come down and test. But if my yellow squiggle here, if this fractal is in play, some people that have been performing damage control here and taking a third of their portfolio off will have been wrong. Now, let me be clear. This is not me trying to put Bob on blast, okay? Bob knows what he's doing. Bob is making an informed decision to protect against this, and he will still have 2/3 of his portfolio ready for this, okay? So he's still going to be able to capture this. He could always add it back once this setup confirms if it were to do so. So this is not me trying to say Bob is wrong or like he shouldn't have done that, right? To each their own. We should never judge another man for taking profit or locking gains or protecting against downside, okay? He's doing what's right for him, and that's absolutely fine. But I'm just saying just how this whole setup here is max pain for me because I'm long in a cycle low here and getting stopped out. It's also max pain for people like Bob, potentially, if it turns out that he puked a third of his position here before the move significantly pushed to the upside. Now, this is also, I believe, max pain for many, many people in my comment section who, for days and days and days and weeks, have been telling me no way we can find a low until we test, and then they spit out a number, whether it's 73k, 70k, whether it's 65k, whatever their number is, right? Everyone is targeting this whole kind of range down here, somewhere in here, as a potential retest and a bottom. In my comment section, because I can see it every day, they are very, very sure of themselves that we have to go down here. It makes perfect logical sense, and therefore they're all kind of sat there waiting to buy the dip. But notice if we do this yellow fractal here, okay, the low is either already in, or you could maybe, if you're super lucky, hope for one final marginal lower low here. Okay, so I believe it's also max pain for all the people that are sat on the sideline here waiting to buy a dip somewhere between 73 and, let's say, 50k. You know who else this would also be max pain for? The shorts. Because the shorts have been looking at all of this price action in here and saying to themselves, yeah, I knew it. I knew it's going down. We're going to short this thing. I'm going to short this thing. But the reality is everyone is getting chopped up here and blown out, right? The people that went short first here and were catching this move, they got liquidated by the Trump pump, right? The Trump tweet that occurred. Of course, since then, the market spilled. They start to short again. And what do? We run the stops on the bearish wedge. Remember, we had this bearish rising wedge in here, right? Something akin to this. And again, fake breakdown, run the stops, fake breakout, run the stops again. So everyone's getting wrecked in here because no matter whether you're bullish or bearish, you're wrong, okay? This is not breaking down truly. It's not confirming true failed cycles. It's not confirming a true spill yet. And if you're a dip buyer and a long here and a bull here, you're also wrong because it's clearly not breaking out yet either, right? So everyone's just getting chopped up. So therefore, I also make the case, shorts here are also going to be in max pain and max trouble, because if you're short here, okay, you're going to get blown out in about a month's time once we find this cycle low. And finally, you know who else is going to be in trouble here? The people that by the time we get here don't have mental discipline to stick to a system. A lot of people are actually like that. A lot of people get very, very worn out by this choppiness, right? They spend 2 months by the time we get here seeing this chop. Your shorts haven't worked, your longs haven't worked, the dip you've been waiting to buy between 70 and 50k, that's not going to work, you're not going to get that opportunity, and then out of nowhere, we start to once again look like we're going to break down here, finally get a direction, and then we're going to reverse, right? And if we are to do something like this, which I'm pretty sure we're going to, only the most mentally strong, disciplined traders that can stick to a system are going to be able to pivot on a dime and take that. Most traders, by the time they get here, are going to be, seeing this occur and saying to themselves, yeah, I don't believe that, right? Oh, it's another lower high, whatever. This comes next. Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, well, we still didn't retest our logical levels. Yeah, well, I'm still sidelined. Yeah, well, so-and-so's taking damage control here and blah, blah, blah. So I just think, for me personally, this makes the most sense in terms of the fewest people will actually profit from this, right? Only the people that are able to sit here patiently, wait for this low, okay, not expect it to be lower down here, and can stick to the system and trade the swing. Only those people that as well have not gotten mentally destroyed and emotionally capitulated here, only those people are going to be able to catch this. That is my base case. That's what I think is going on. I am more confident in this current setup than I have been in quite some time. I also think it's worth pointing out that none of this qualifies as a weekly cycle low, but by the time this setup plays out and we get a daily cycle low somewhere around here, I think this will qualify as a weekly cycle low. If I put it on the weekly time frame and then use this DSS Brexit, look, we are getting ready here. We are getting ready to see something like this occur, and then a big strong push will give us the Brexit cross, which will confirm that we indeed have a new weekly cycle. And the best news of all of this is if this is the weekly cycle here rather than back here, then we get to move the next weekly cycle low by 2 months, okay? And look what happens if we do this. That then drags us out and gives us enough space to get a ultra right translated weekly cycle into October, which again would mean that all of the people that said nothing is ever different, this cycle is going to be exactly the same, blah, 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 they would be correct. We would be ultra right translated for the 4-year cycle, weekly cycle low, lower high, die. Okay, into that 12-month bear market, targeting the 4-year cycle low, which once more will coincide with the true turn, the true Fed pivot, right? The true start of quantitative easing and balance sheet expansion. So I think this is what's going on. This is my case. This is how I see it. And again, let's be clear, because every trade setup needs invalidation. We make a significant lower low below the current wick, okay? And this is not in play. We spill any time before that 60-day cycle low, this is not in play. And I really don't think it's going to happen because the cycles don't support it. But I suppose if we were to break out strongly here early, then we could maybe entertain that we got a half cycle low inversion on the daily cycle. I think Prez is calling for this. I don't see it personally. Now, nothing against Prez or his work, of course, it's just a conflict of opinions, right? I also, to be fair, said I don't see us making a new low here, and we did. So You know, what does my opinion mean? Absolutely nothing. But for me, I just don't see us being able to invert here without some major catalyst, and I don't think the catalyst is going to come. And I'm going to present my reasons now for why I don't think that. So let's be clear one more time. If this thing moons from here, okay, then we've got invalidation on the yellow squiggle. If this thing spills from here violently, then we've got invalidation for this. And if we continue to just kind of chop around, find a low into the 7th of May-ish, and then go, then I say this is exactly what's in play. This is the real confirmed weekly cycle here, and we're going to Valhalla. Okay, that's what I say. Now, a couple other things I want to show you is if this is true, we can expect a perfect cycle low inside of the window for Bitcoin on the 7th of May. Okay, and guess what else is synced up for the 7th of May? That's right, the next cycle low date for the S&P 500. So it may well be that we're going to get on the 7th of May, that would be day 38 for the S&P. Again, we see the cycle bottom for Bitcoin and the first daily cycle low since this big spill for the stock market. Now, again, it's not just that, because when is this weekly cycle low due for gold? Okay, you guessed it, the 7th of May. And again, why is the 7th of May so significant? Not only because all three of these asset classes have their cycles synced up for the 7th of May, but also because the FOMC meeting is there to provide the market with a narrative to append to the cycles to explain away the cycle price action. Expect this to continue to bounce around, but what, of course, is this correlated to? Absolutely right. Tell that to the bond market. So big green candle. Why? Because we're seeing bonds sold off, which forces yields higher. Why are bonds being sold off? Because people keep getting margin called and they need to generate liquidity any which way they can. Remember the old saying, okay, in crashes, correlations 10 to 1. Another way of saying this, when the whole house gets raided, everyone gets arrested, including the piano player. That's what this is, okay? We're raiding the whorehouse now. Absolutely everyone's getting arrested, even bonds. But as the dust settles, as this current spill and panic event and volatility begins to settle down into early May, when all those next cycle lows are due, you better believe that we are going to continue to sit here and beat that same drum and say, tell that to the bond market as bond yields move to the downside. And as bond yields continue to move to the downside, this will continue to reprice this way until ultimately I believe that we will be seeing a cut in May's meeting, which once more is perfectly synced up with gold's daily and weekly cycle, is perfectly synced up with Bitcoin's daily and weekly cycle, and also is likely going to be the first real opportunity that the stock market gets to find a tradable low that can move to the upside. A lot of people have been asking me this question. What is the base case? Okay, I think I've made it clear, but let's just make it clear one more time in case anyone still has this question. The base case is that out of this daily cycle low, we are going to get a bounce to a lower high. Okay, now I hope and pray that I can be invalidated, we can stay long and strong for longer, we don't get any big spills and breakdowns from a lower high, and I hope that we go to new all-time highs. I really hope that's the case. But currently it's not the base case because we had the third angle, the second angle violation, and the failed daily cycle. So the base case is a lower high here. That was the David Hunter squiggle to 7.5k S&P, by the way. And let's zoom in and draw a proper squiggle here, I think. So I would imagine we've got the half cycle low here. Okay, we're going to probably do something like this. In fact, let's draw some structures so we can maybe predict this more accurately. Right, I reckon this is probably what we're going to do. Something like this, okay, touch of resistance, roll over, daily cycle low. It could be a higher low and it could be a lower low. We don't know yet, okay? But I would think we're going to get something akin to this into that 7th of May FOMC. Then we get the rate cuts, probably a slightly dovish Fed, and then we're going to probably see something like this. Now, the base case is to a lower high and a rollover, okay? But again, we can always draw trend lines underneath and stay long and strong until such time as that's proven. And we can hope that we go to new highs. But the base case is still that we are not going to see new highs in the stock market until proven otherwise. Now, we may be able to be in, out, shake it all about here. Okay, which means perhaps we do something like this yellow squiggle suggests. We start to break down, we exit on the lower high. And then what we could do is always draw a line from here to wherever that high forms and use this as invalidation for Camel's lower high. So if the market then was to turn up like this and break out, again, we can be long on a breakout and then we can expect new highs thereafter. But notice how the approach for the stock market is we are assuming lower highs until such time as the market can invalidate us. Okay, now for Bitcoin, not really much changes. Okay, this is not the same deal for Bitcoin. I am actually expecting Bitcoin to go on to make new highs. So if this squiggle I showed you earlier on is really in play, that fractal suggests we're going to do something like this, right, 7th of May, and then I expect new highs. And the opposite is true for Bitcoin. So whereas the stock market, we expect lower highs and wait till we're proven otherwise, for Bitcoin, I'm expecting higher highs and I wait till I'm proven otherwise. So if we do rip to all-time highs, we go, okay, that makes sense. We're still targeting a double out of that weekly cycle low. That has yet to be truly invalidated. And of course, we'll keep an openness and an awareness to any kind of breakdowns should they occur at a lower high, in which case we can say, yep, we've now got breakdowns, we can respect that, and we've got invalidation on the higher high setups. Last but not least for Bitcoin, a lot of people had a question for me along the lines of, Camel, is this a true failed cycle? Camel, are you dumping your whole Bitcoin stack because we've got a failed weekly cycle? And look, you can have a system and stick to your system. If your system is the moment we pierce through, you dump your whole stack, that's fine. You can see Bob Lucas, we all know, has lightened up a third of his stack. That's his way of dealing with it. My way of dealing with it is to push the trade until it becomes unreasonable to do so. As of right now, yes, we pierced, yes, we got a lower low, but look at the closes, okay? This is not convincing enough for me to dump my spot stack and incur a 25, or 24%, I think, a 24% capital gains charge. That's just not convincing enough for me to say, okay, time to perform damage control here. Yes, on a wick, we went lower. Yes, I was not expecting to go lower. Yes, on the trading position, I had to pay a stop loss there, but hey, this is trading. Sometimes you have to pay stops. And when you put yourself on the line and have a transparent system where you make your stop losses public, like I do on this channel, then from time to time, when the market turns against you, right, there's no hiding from it. I'm not one of these YouTubers that can come back after the fact and say, well, I told you, right? I nailed that trade. Hope you got as much profit as me. Hey, click my exchange referral link, by the way, right? I can't hide from it because it's all done in plain sight. So, you know, I had to pay a stop here. That's fine in the trading position. But as it stands, this is not enough for me, like I said, to go dump in my whole stack. I need to see a bit more. I need to be truly convinced that we are going way, way, way lower. And then I will probably do something similar to what Bob Lucas has done, which is shed something like a third of my stack to perform the damage control. But as it stands right now, I'm okay with continuing to push this trade, right? We're comfortably in spot since the lows. That was made very public. Again, that was one of the things that put me on the radar, was my ability to call the lows because of the cycles. And right now, this is just, like I said, not quite enough for me. And I have also seen all of these cycles sync up with the FOMC. To me, the stars are aligning to see the rate cuts and to see the market have one final hurrah. I actually really like the idea that I was wrong about calling the weekly cycle low here. I like the idea that instead of do what I thought we would do, which is V out of this to new highs, okay, I like the fact that the market is taking longer, because the longer it takes, the easier it is to nail the top if it's ultra right translated, right? We would have had a problem here where we might have had to have some kind of double, okay, some kind of shakeout, and then buy a low probability bounce that may have done this, right? Or it might not. It might have done this, and then we'd have been in a lot of trouble. But the fact that this is now shifted this way, most probably, tells me that we can indeed use the major 4-year cycle timing to give me way more confidence about selling the top. So the only thing we need to see really is another month of chop, everyone calling each other names, everyone getting annoyed with each other, right? Everyone infighting, bears still sidelined, still waiting to buy a dip that never comes, stops getting run for both the long and the short side, and then we finally do something like this, get to FOMC and start to blast off. And then I really think that we are going to be able to nail this top. For now at least, like I said earlier, bad news is there's a bit more chop for around a month. So that's what I think. Obviously, there's a clear invalidation for this, and I hope that answers any questions you may or may not have had. Of course, if you're a level 3 member, I'm going to update you in real time anytime I change my spot. So if you're a member, you certainly don't need to be asking me, did I sell spot, right? You'll be the first to know. That's how the whole thing works. Let's have a quick summing up. So in the stock market, as I was saying, we kind of expect this, touch of resistance, rollover, daily cycle low, and then I think we've got tradable swings. Then we can look for the lower high, and if we get a push and it rips 2 new all-time highs, we will do our best to capture that. For Bitcoin, we've done it to death, but just to be clear, okay, we are expecting a bit more chop, a cycle low and go. For gold, very similar deal, okay, we should be about to find a daily cycle low, a bounce, but I think the weekly cycle low is probably in focus, and I would think this probably remains the high. I think there's too much uncertainty, too much volatility out there at the moment to see an actual rip to new highs for gold. So this is probably a tradable swing, but it would have to be quite short term, and we would have to have zero tolerance and draw a trend line underneath it like this and be ready to sell breakdowns. I actually think for me, waiting for the weekly cycle low in line with everyone else's cycles synced up and the rate cuts would be the catalyst to go long for gold. And of course for silver, we are still expecting to tell that to the bond market, and we're still expecting that to put the rate cuts on the table for May. And the Dixie looks to be trying its best to confirm that weekly cycle low, so just need to see a trend line breakout, and then we can start to look for a big strong push. So that is it. Hope you found this useful. Hope you will consider subscribing and following along. I hope you won't get too disheartened by the fact the last couple of cycle lows haven't been resulting immediately to new highs. Okay, but just appreciate bottoms are a process, particularly longer term cycles like the weekly cycle. This is still a process. And if you allow yourself to get disheartened and start throwing a tantrum and saying silly things like cycles don't work, cycles, you're imagining them, whatever, if you do that, you are essentially excluding yourself from being able to catch hold of this upcoming daily cycle low, okay, which is probably also the weekly cycle low and probably resolves to much, much, much higher numbers. So whether you are short, long, whether you're targeting lower down, whatever the deal is, okay, just at least be open to the scenario I've highlighted, because I personally believe that is the base case. I personally believe it's the most probable outcome, and I personally believe that most people are going to get that wrong. As always, I'm your boy Camel. I hope you're doing well in life, and until next time, take care from me. All the best. Cheers. Bye.
Camel Finance, he's the man to see. Rocking the markets with his contrarian spree. Trades like a pro, no fear, no shame. Sticking to his guns in his money game. He's a badass, oh yes indeed. Camel